They call me Brian Callahan. In this cruel world there is a man you should listen to as you journey on through life. His name is Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. Shoulders for days and a really wide back. Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan. A barrel of snakes for a bag.
You fucked up. You should have never done that song. It was terrible.
All right, so this cringe merchant we have here is Lex Fridman, who I'm sure people are somewhat familiar with, but if you're not, he's another one of these pseudo-intellectual Rogan Sphere podcaster characters who has some kind of association with MIT and has worked on AI research. But his role at MIT and some of the work he's done there has been questioned a lot, and other experts in his field have heavily criticized some of his research because he's mostly known for doing this research paper on the safety of Tesla Autopilot that was really favorable for Tesla, but was called out by a lot of other academics. And Lex's response was just to block everybody that was critical of it. And now it's almost impossible to find his research paper. But it did, of course, get Elon Musk's attention, which I'm sure was Lex's main goal with it.
It makes for a fun chat, I think. So one guy that I've talked to several times, who's slowly becoming a friend, is a guy named Elon Musk.
And because of Lex's association with MIT, AI, and Elon Musk, now some people think Lex is an MIT professor and an AI genius that works on Teslas.
Like Lex Fridman went on Joe Rogan the other day, and he's a AI genius guy. He does all the Teslas and stuff.
So he managed to leverage those credentials into getting Joe Rogan and Elon Musk's attention. You know, basically he's a professional Elon Musk and Joe Rogan dick rider, which can get you pretty far. I mean, he's one of the top podcasters now, but the amount of glazing you have to do is pretty embarrassing. I mean, that Joe Rogan song Lex performed felt like a humiliation ritual. But, you know, there's a lot of people competing for Rogan and Elon's attention, so you have to take drastic measures sometimes. Like, when it comes to glazing Elon, it's not easy to compete with some of these people like Ian Miles Chong. But Lex, he'll give him a run for his money. I mean, these two spend so much time on Twitter just thinking of ways to praise Elon. And during this past Valentine's Day, this was really cringy. Elon, his girlfriend, posted a picture of her and their kids. And then Elon responded with a heart emoji, and then she responded with the same thing. And then for some reason, Lex responded to both of them and said, "Loving this," with a heart emoji. And the comments are like, dude, this is creepy. This is so weird. What are you doing? And then also on Lex's podcast, he'll praise Elon every chance he gets. And he'll even ask his guests questions like this.
A little bit more love. What do you admire in the name of love about Elon Musk?
And Lex always says shit like this. He's always talking about the importance of love. And he just sounds so childish. Like he thinks everything can be solved through the power of love and forgiveness. Like when he had on Zelensky, he said he just needs to learn to forgive Putin. Which, no matter what side you're on there, to think that those two are going to forgive each other is just absolutely insane. But Lex acts like he lives in a fairy tale world, and whenever there's a conflict or a problem, he thinks it can just be solved with the power of love. And you can tell even the guests he has on his show think it's kind of goofy how much he talks about this. And sometimes he even has trouble keeping a straight face when he mentions it.
I got to ask you about love.
I heard you're into this now.
Into this love thing?
Yeah. You think this is your solution to your depression?
No, I'm just trying to, like you said, enlighten people on occasion, trying to solve. But in that sense, I would say the power of love is the philosophy you might apply to Brett. Any chance you talk to Joe again and reinvigorate your friendship?
Yeah, well, I reached out to him privately when I saw that clip.
Did you use the power of love?
And in my opinion, this whole image he portrays of being all about love and understanding just seems like a facade. I mean, he tries so hard to act like he's a really thoughtful and caring person who just wants to understand everybody and their opinions and perspective.
And I'm willing to be patient, to learn, to listen, to humble myself with knowledge for the sake of knowledge itself. I try to think deeply about the world, to look for the beautiful ideas in the minds of others, and to be inspired by them.
But then he goes around blocking anybody that's even remotely critical of him, even people in the same field, you know, AI and computer scientists. He'll block them. Even if you like the wrong tweet, he'll block you. And then also a ton of people have been banned from his subreddit. And I guess if you even ask any questions about his background or anything, you'll get banned. Like if you say he graduated from Drexler and not MIT, they'll ban you. So this doesn't really seem like somebody who's all about having conversations and understanding where people are coming from. And then also one time, Mark Norman, he told this story about how he was doing a podcast with Lex, and it was at a hotel, and Lex needed to print something, but the printer wasn't working, and he said Lex started yelling at the lady who was working there. And Mark sounded pretty surprised by it, because obviously if you listen to Lex's podcast, he sounds very even-tempered and relaxed, and he talks a lot about love and compassion. But then if a printer breaks down, he'll flip out.
Well, what's fun is we did it in a hotel in New York. He was in town for some reason, and the printer wasn't working in the lobby, and I got to watch him yell at the lady behind the desk, and that was weird, seeing him not be that robot guy. He was like, what the hell? The printer doesn't work? Get your shit together. And some girl like, I don't know. And I want to be like, hey, that's the autistic guy.
And this part of the podcast was originally posted as a clip, like to the We Might Be Drunk clip channel, but then it was deleted, which makes me think Lex told them to delete it. So this guy's just a really strange character. I mean, he's like an enigma, and it seems like he came out of nowhere. You know, like somehow Rogan found out about him and had him on, and then he started his own podcast and right away had on Elon Musk. And now he's one of the biggest podcasters in the world and has on the same caliber of guests as Rogan, like Mark Zuckerberg, Donald Trump, Kanye West, and even people that Rogan hasn't had on that he probably wants to, like Jeff Bezos. And then also for some reason, Lex spent a Thanksgiving with Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. So Lex's rise to fame, in my opinion, just feels kind of contrived, like he's an industry plant or something. I mean, even Ari and Mark during this podcast I just played were like, this guy just popped up out of nowhere and everybody's acting like they know him already. It's kind of weird.
Big and new, just like everybody likes Huberman, everybody likes Lex Fridman. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going to invite him to my wedding. I'm like, you didn't even know it existed 4 months ago. What the fuck are we talking about?
He gets Elon Musk, he gets Tucker Carlson, he gets Rogan, he gets all these giant names, and he's just like an MIT robot.
So even Rogan's comedy friends seem to be confused about why Lex is so popular all of a sudden. Like Tim Dillon, he thought the same thing after he did Lex's podcast. And this was maybe one of the best rants from him. He did Lex's podcast, and afterwards he's like, everyone says Lex is a genius, and I'm sure he is, but what does he even do other than whack off Elon Musk? And he just starts going off on him and Eric Weinstein. And this caused Eric to have like a mental breakdown. And he went on Rogan's podcast afterwards to prove what he's done, like his life's work. And it was a complete disaster. It was so embarrassing. I covered that on Patreon. Make sure you check that out. It was hilarious. But it sounds like Rogan convinces all his comedy friends to do Lex's podcast. And they go on there and afterwards they're like, that was cool, but who the hell is that guy and where did he come from and what does he even do?
He's great. He's a genius. I can't even believe he's talking to me. And everyone says he's a genius. I don't know if he's a genius. I'm sure he is a genius. What does he do? He's a coder?
Yeah, for AI. Yeah.
Wait, so what does that even mean?
So like
Does anyone have to ask credentials anymore? Everyone goes, Eric Weinstein's a genie. Does anyone know why? What? Is there anything they've done? No, truly, because all they do is talk. Is there anything they've built? Is there one appliance that they have anything to do with? Have they come up with something even like the Rotato, which peels and slices a potato as you could? Is there one thing any of them have done except whack off Elon Musk and talk? I'm literally asking. And I love them all. And I don't, but I do. But whatever. They're funny. But I mean, and you can't find a thing they do. What is their job? What is any of their jobs?
To do research.
Into what? Why and who? Where? Where's the what? They all do research all day. What are they researching? They're just talking about trans people. They're all supposedly tech geniuses who's talking about who has a cock. I'm dead serious. And all they're talking about is if somebody's tucking the D.
So that might be his best rant. I mean, it's so funny. Like, Rogan tries to convince all these people that Lex is a super genius AI researcher, which maybe he is, but at this point, he's just a podcaster. That's the only thing he's known for. Nobody knows him outside of that. You know, people just know he's involved in AI. That's about it. And I think most people believe he went to MIT or he teaches there because he's always bringing it up, but he never went there. He actually went to Drexler. That's where he graduated from. But he never really mentions that, and he only seems to bring up MIT, I think, to sound more legit. But if he really is this super genius who's doing all this really important AI research, why is he spending so much time doing podcasts and making songs about Joe Rogan and all this other bullshit? You know, it seems like he really just wants to be famous. And some people who know him claim all he's really cared about is just gaining a following and becoming a celebrity. And I guess his strategy to do that was to convince Joe Rogan that he's some kind of AI genius and then also suck up to him and Elon Musk, which obviously worked well. I mean, Rogan promoted him like crazy and would always tell people to do his podcast. And one of the funniest moments was when he tried to convince Neil deGrasse Tyson to do his podcast. And he showed him this video of Lex playing the guitar in a self-driving car. And Neil, he couldn't have been less interested in it.
That's pretty good. Lex can shred. Give me some of that. You got to listen to this. Listen to this. Have you done Lex's podcast?
No.
You would love him. He's an AI researcher. From MIT originally. Now he's mostly doing independent work and doing his own podcast. And brilliant guy. You would love him. And he's got an amazing podcast too.
Okay, so here it's going to be in this section.
I don't think you're interested in Lex's podcast. Seems like he's not paying attention.
What do you mean? No, hang on. I got this.
Lex,
no, thank you for the tip.
I'm trying to get him on, buddy.
I'm trying to get him in.
Lex actually is one of the most brilliant people I know. I think you would love talking to him.
An interesting quote here from Walter Bagehot.
And I'm not saying Lex is a bad podcaster, but I don't know why Rogan feels the need to tell everyone they need to go on there. You know, it's not like his podcast is that unique. I mean, it's like the same thing as Rogan's, and Lex has a lot of the same interests. He talks about the same topics, and he's heavily inspired by Rogan. So I don't know why Joe feels like all these people that just did his podcast need to go do another one with this random AI researcher nobody even knew about not too long ago. You know, it'd make more sense if he just had on tech people. But for him to have on somebody like Jocko Willink, that just doesn't seem like something that needs to happen. But I'm sure Rogan set it up and it's probably like, oh, you got to do this podcast. And then he went on there and it seemed like right away he's thinking, why am I here?
Is it tragic or beautiful to you that some of the closest bonds that have formed between people are through war often?
I think it's both tragic and beautiful, and for the obvious reasons.
What are some of the worst aspects of when you were in Iraq? What are the things that the hardest on you?
Having my guys killed. Hopefully surf if the waves are good.
Surf for?
How good are the waves?
Let's say they're good. This is a perfect day. This is a perfect waves. Why do you surf?
It's fun.
Okay. This is fun. Okay. Man and nature, which is like what surfing is the ultimate, is the power of the infinite power of the ocean versus a little silly looking man on a board.
You could say it's the infinite power of the ocean versus a silly looking man on a board, or you could say it's fun.
And Lex just really wants to be like Rogan. You know, he has a lot of the same interests. He's into jujitsu, comedy, hunting, lifting, and he'll try to convince people that he's an alpha male. Like, he hates the idea of people thinking of him as a nerd or a beta. So he has to remind people that he's an alpha and he has a Rogan inside him and he's a man's man because he likes to lift heavy objects.
Okay, so I love fighting. I've been in street fights my whole life. I'm as alpha in everything I do as it gets. And the fact that on Joe Rogan said that I thought Scent of a Woman is a better movie than John Wick put me into this beta category. Like, I'm a total bro in a sense. Like, I may not look like it, but I have like a Rogan inside me. And my dad, like, I really am a man's man. Except for the times in like Harvard Square and academia, it rubs off on me. But for the most part, man's man.
What does a man's man mean? May I get granular?
There's just a list of stupid shit you do. Like, I like lifting heavy things. I like building stuff. I love the idea of hunting. I love fishing. I like knives and guns and
Risk, danger.
Risk and danger, yeah.
Okay, so I'd like the carnal sort of...
I love fighting, combat, violence.
But not in relationships?
I mean, like, literally getting in a street fight. Just two monkeys going at it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love it.
The adrenaline.
the adrenaline, just I'm an alpha, like I'm a better motherfucker than you.
I'm not buying that
hate when
even
he talks like
remotely.
that. I hate when. Hey,
That's
bro.
not true.
Yeah, so he just desperately wants to be seen as an alpha male, and he also probably just wants to get Rogan's acceptance and approval. Like, he's always trying to impress him. But it's just embarrassing if you have to go around telling people you're an alpha male. I guess he just needs to remind people, though, and he also needs to remind people that he has a PhD and he knows what he's talking about.
If you're going to criticize me about my exploration of ideas in Bitcoin, you have to also acknowledge that I'm a human being that got like a PhD and stuff. Like, I did some hard shit that it could be in farming or it could be in whatever. Like, I've lived life and I've really thought deeply and I really care. Like, I know a lot of shit, and it's possible that I actually have a lot of ideas that you can learn from. Now, if it's agriculture, fine, or if it's artificial intelligence, fine. Like, I know what I'm talking about certain.
Yeah, so I guess Lex knows what he's talking about because he has a PhD and stuff. So you could tell he's just really insecure about people not taking him seriously or not thinking he's an intellectual. Just like Eric Weinstein, who still hasn't recovered from Tim Dillon questioning what he's done. And if you want to hear more about that, I covered that whole saga over on Patreon. It was hilarious. I highly recommend it. And there are also over 120 other exclusive videos on there. It's the best way to keep up with the Rogan sphere. So if you like this channel, if you like this video, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description.